Just to make things clear, when, for example, we were testing the Zweihander, like, we were starting from the position that was basically perfect for the Zweihander user. Not realistic for the actual gameplay, where I'm just not standing in front of you.
Oh, holy shit, yeah. If you're medium rolling, like, the Uggs does not need to be here to catch you, like, at the moment you roll. Like, it does not need to be poking at the same time you roll to catch you. But with light roll, you need to sort of do that so you can, like, you know, fully reach back. But in a real case, most of the time someone rolls back with a light roll, they're not going to be point blank with you, right?
Yeah.
Here's one interaction I could just test. So I just want you to, like, double roll after getting hit by this running attack. How much points? Just get under 80. Double roll after this, and I just need to make sure.
Firstly, you hit me, and after that, I double roll, yeah?
Yep.
So yeah, that hits.
Yeah, that's guaranteed if I get that.
Okay. But like, there is like, you know, there is one thing that you can do that you cannot do on the mid roll. Can you hit me again, and then try to roll catch? Yeah, like, so light rolls, basically by rolling on the side, you are actually safe in comparison to the mid roll. When normally, like, it would be actually a mistake. Okay, that's a hit.
Now go on light roll, and I want to see if that's possible.
Okay.
So let's see this.
I mean,
yeah,
that's
I think that
no
may be
sense.
impossible.
No. No, like, no shot, man. The thing about light rolls, a lot of people just saying like, oh, look, light rolls are actually good because counter to crouch poke. No, crouch pokes are one of things that can somewhat deal with the light rolls if the latency is low enough.
Oh,
Whereas
100%.
what happens with light rolls is you are trivializing all the non-meta weapons. You making the potential choice.
Roll catch, not possible.
Yeah, roll catch not possible on the non-meta weapons. You're even further lowering the amount of the choices that you have, like, in the game.
Yeah.
That you can be efficient with.
To really pin the point, one thing I want to test is just to show that when you're on sort of light roll and you get hit in most sort of scenarios in battle, like, it just sort of breaks the combo potential in, like, in a lot of ways. Like, I can make that sort of range to, you know, combo it like that. But is that, if you go down to light roll, like, would that work even?
Okay, let's go.
Input drop. Nope, that completely breaks. You can sort of just, like, do basically, like, sort of safe rolls where, like, you just sort of feel like someone's pressuring you and you roll back.
You
and
can
like,
use
no
light
way.
rolls for repositioning. That's something that you shouldn't do on mid roll, because your mid roll essentially is slower than the sprint. In case of light roll, it is not the case. Amir, can you sprint after, after me? Like, look, I am actually...
It's, like, slightly faster, yeah. Obviously, like, eventually I'll catch up to you because of the thing, but, like, in real battle, like, that's not what you won't need that,
I mean,
right?
I can, like, keep rolling out, and I just, like, jump away, and now I am, like, always in the further position than you.
Yeah, it's really freaking easy to sort of,
and
like,
I can just,
like
literally roll through you, yeah, and get... like, again, like, away with the jump. So essentially light rolls really trivialize a lot of the potential spacing, because when I am, for example, being chased by gankers and I am on the mid roll, then I have to, like, manage my sprints, jumps and rolls very well for the sake of to get away from my opponents, or I have to use some sort of the offensive option instead. I cannot brain deadly, like, you know, spam the button. And in case of light rolls, this is basically what I can do. And, like, that's why I always repeat that light rolls are trivializing the gameplay.
I have a really good example here, actually. Like, instead of just, like, the combo test or whatever, I want you to use something where you basically just do, like, a neutral attack, and then basically what I'm gonna do is do or do not punish your attack. Yep. Now if we do it on the light roll. Oh my fucking
there
god.
You go.
It's so much freaking harder. Oh my god. I think I can do it if I literally get, like... Like that, something like that. I
mean,
I did it too early, but
yet again, reminder to everyone: this is like a testing environment, in the meaning that I am not timing shit. Like,
yeah, like he's being completely, like, like literally telling me what he's gonna do.
okay, but
yeah,
that being said, what is important to mention, just in case, the light rolls force you to optimize your build heavily, and like, okay, you are benefiting from the potential light roll for the additional distance. Okay, you might say, okay, it's somewhat broken, but hey, like, you are losing on the absorption of your build, and you're also required to use only light type of the weapons, and that would be somewhat correct. That being said, the drop on the absorption is from 34% to like 30% on the optimized build. 28, 29, depends also what level you're actually using, because guys, remember that like this game doesn't really force you to stay on the particular level. Like, for example, for the Elden Ring PvP Discord, the so-called dwelling meta is 125. Also, in the game, like, most players rather consider something between 125 and 150, or even maybe a little bit more. When you are considering light rolls, you probably supposed to consider many different tiers, including gaming on something that most people probably would consider as overlevel. I'm gonna take the opportunity to talk a little bit about overall what I so far find as the most optimal build for light rolls on 125, which is essentially the HTS light roll. And the reason why it is the most optimal, or maybe the most abusive of the light rolls, is because the jump R1 on the HTS has very little, if not the shortest, like, amount of recovery.
yeah. So it's very rare.
You're doing
basically-
basically, you can aggress, and you can just like keep on rolling out. You're doing that, and you basically use the light roll to get yourself into the safety. Unless my opponent is going to perfectly outspace me,
Like,
I can just...
It's so difficult. So let me say that something there. Basically, what I need to do to catch you with that is I need to like be able to, while you're in your recovery, before you start the roll, be running up here in your in your face, like when you're in that sort of recovery phase, which is very, very short, and then basically press the attack the same time that you roll back, and then when you're at the end of the roll, it will hit you with the tip of it, right? But I need that. I can't do it where if you like, let's say, land there in your recovery. If I do it here and I attack, then your roll's gonna outspace it, right? It's gonna get out of the range in time.
And
So-
like on top of that, I am just throwing attacks in the air. I can like delay it like this, and basically, if my opponent is gonna try to aggress, then they are going to get hit.
Like, see there, even then, like, I can do it too late too.
So essentially, this playstyle is just super toxic.
Yeah, and like, see, I could technically attack in and get a trade or hit you before you get your thing, but especially with the latency, that's very unlikely. Like it's especially as latency goes up, it's basically guaranteed to trade, right? Like let me demonstrate this point. If you do a running R2 to me, there is no way that I can possibly stop it from hitting me by hitting you before the attack comes out. There's
Well,
just
not
no
on
way.
reaction. Yeah, you have to.
Not even on reaction. There's just no way, no point where the timings can match. I would need to hit you while you're over there. But like, in terms of getting into my range, like, oh, here's a really good example. If I throw out Flaming Strike and you do a running R2 into it.
Okay.
See that?
Trade. Yep.
It's not because like you're hitting me on the same frame that is hitting you. No. In fact, you're in the fire for quite a long time, 4 frames, about 4.5 frames before you actually get stunned. It's because when you go into the fire, it takes time for me to see that you're in the fire because your animation and position packets are coming to me. And then it takes time for me to send that hit packet back to tell you that you need to be interrupted. And while you're in the middle of that, like when you actually get on and hit me, that's going to be sent to me and it's not going to be interrupted by the process. It doesn't like roll back. So there's no way, like that makes something like the heavy thrusting sword playstyle that I was talking about very effective because it's basically impossible to trade. The only thing you can do is get like a perfect whiff punish or a very, very hard to get you know, roll punish, right? Or a reaction test. But if they just freely roll behind, then you got to get like that perfect timing, perfect spacing, everything. It's so freaking precise.
Yeah, and you have essentially both HTS and dual straight swords are like the weapons that basically are easily considered meta. Ultimately, both of these weapons benefit a lot out of the jumping attacks, as they have like very little of recovery, and the jumping attacks of theirs are overall very, very good. And they are also super light. Like the weapon that I am currently using is 6.5 weight points, and dual nobles is 3.5 per one, so like it's 7 overall. So
Oh yeah, can I like demonstrate one thing real quickly? Like light roll doesn't help some things. So do you have like just something that's not exactly meta? Like basically do the same thing you were doing with HTS and with the light roll, okay? Like see how much easier that was? Because he doesn't have the same, you know, the same reach, the same recovery, like the recovery's worse and whatever. It means that I can actually get up closer sooner and actually get that punish. So if you like immediately like double roll back, then I can get it much easier than I could with the HDS.
Here
So
you
I
go.
can still catch him.
And
But
the
with
thing
HDS,
is that
no.
And the thing is that like Amir is not really doing any sort of the advanced movement over here. It is like the basics of the basics. He could like easily just like a wave dash on me and like keep on aggressing, and that would be more likely that he would hit me because of that.
Yeah. Like, and then something that maybe have even worse recovery but more range, such as this, much more than the axe, it has more recovery as well. So the light roll is still not gonna benefit from it as much. But something like the HAS, which is like the meta of the meta, it has both the insane recovery and the insane range. And the speed. So like it basically makes it on so many levels far harder to punish. It's harder to get into the position to punish because because both the speed means that you can't react to it fast and get to the position. The range means that you physically can't get there without being interrupted. And the recovery time means they can roll sooner, and it just decreases the window. There's just so many layers to it.
Making like this summary from what we have seen during the test and the general knowledge about the light rolls collected ever since the release of patch 1.06. From my perspective, it's looking like that. Light rolls, trivializing the spacing, the more latency you have between your opponent, and essentially doesn't really let you to aggress your opponent like you previously could when the light roll was way weaker and against the mid roll overall. This is the first thing. The second thing, you do not really lose much on the, for example, poise, because all the builds that basically are optimal for the light rolls can easily fit 61 poise at the very least on them. So ultimately you are still on the most optimal like breakpoint for the poise. Your absorption getting lowered by around like 5% depends on your build, and I am here talking about level 125. Is that really that effective of the trade-off? I would say no. Like from my individual like perspective, from that what I have been testing so far against other ladder players and so on, it really doesn't increase your time to kill by much, or sorry, like decrease your time to kill by much. It's just like pretty much it's the same. It's just that you have so much easier time just managing your dodges. What is important, do you have like a dual sword Trina, perhaps? I want to actually show something to the audience. So, come on again. I hit Amir like once, and then I hit him again with the phantom hit. Let's do it again.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you got that.
And like essentially, as you can see, because of the medium roll being as short as it is, I can keep on aggressing. So someone that is just like brain deadly spamming that button, I can just get them. So the thing is, if you have high latency to someone, you can keep on aggressing with the status effect to beat the latency. Because essentially, status effects are natural counter to the latency, as you are just simply like constantly doing the phantom hits, yeah? You are constantly hitting people in the iframes, And because of that, like, basically status effects are simply good against latency, and a lot of players, when they are like fighting against someone that has like a lot of ping to them, then basically, you know, the optimal play here is usually to use a status effect. But now I'm using the light rolls, and check it out.
There's no way.
Like, aggressing is basically pointless for me. And on the higher ping, I could potentially maybe I would be even able to hit Amir again, like one more time. But after that, if you're gonna keep on spamming the light roll, Amir gonna be out of the distance 100%. I cannot do anything like about anymore. So
Yeah.
ultimately, like, the problem with the light rolls is not really that apparent on the low latency, and I and Amir have like 127 ping on the average. It's not really that terrible. It is going to be very apparent on like even higher latency. Like, legitimately something around 200 ms. It is like, for example, distance from the Central/Eastern Europe to NA West or something like that. It's gonna be this type of the latency. It is not really uncommon this type of latency is going to happen. You actually become legitimately invisible. There is no counterplay in any shape or form, because the previous counterplay was status effects. Without status effects, you do not have anything anymore. Literally, you are absolutely fucked if you are facing someone that has light rolls.
Well, like, yeah, unless you have status effects, and the thing is, you're applying it with that. Like, how with any other sort of form of doing it, like anything that can't really lunge as much forward and hit as fast, you know, because like one of the best things against light roll, in a sense, or like the only things that can sort of like catch it pretty reliably without like having a very, very small window, is this, right? But like that's only can do it like sort of once.
Yeah.
And then basically anything like this is kind of just, you know.
Oh yeah, you are
because
absolutely
the window
free.
is just like
You
so friggin' slow.
like the other weapon that can potentially like be decent to apply the status effect against light roll high ping player would be the dual spears, but you cannot use madness, you cannot use sleep, and also like to make things clear, the dual straight swords are very good at roll catching, because it is actually pretty much the length of this 500. The crouch poke, that is.
So,
Because
I
of the
can't help but
forward
wonder,
momentum.
yeah.
Is
plus-
there any way that we ourselves could balance it, in a sense? Because if we left light roll as is, and we just had the same range and had the same properties, would it be possible to like add restrictions on top of it?
In my opinion, it is like just the full rework is required. Like, you cannot really do much about it, its current state. I would say just, I don't know, like maybe like something like Dark Souls 2 did. It was like very complicated system, because the length of the light rolls was increasing gradually the less of the equip load you actually had, which was very interesting system and so on. But like what was very cool is that your stamina regeneration was different depending on the amount of the equip load that you had. So I would say like decreasing the range of the light rolls, perhaps even to the amount that we had before, which is like just 8% more than the medium roll, and just like giving the other benefits, like faster stamina regeneration, something like that. It would be pretty cool, I would say. Maybe at the same time also increase equip load percentage from that 30% to like 40, maybe even 50%. Just like some sort of the rework for the sake of so light rolls would actually have the appearance in the PvP, because in the PvE previous light roll was already being used, for example, in the Malenia boss fight, because that 8% was giving you the upper hand on the waterfall. It's like,
it was like night and day. I can definitely say, like, I was pretty persistent on wanting to use it with medium roll or beat it with medium roll, and I practiced that a bunch. And then when I tested it with light roll, it was like night and day. And then basically when the update came out, people that were relying on that, you know, were used to rolling it on that distance, they rolled actually back into a space that allowed them to get caught because the motion increase was so great. So they had to adjust the angle that they rolled and the timing.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, like
So, yeah.
the argument that like light rolls on 8% were useless is just not correct. It is not factual. It is light rolls had its moments where like they were basically meta, like they were considered like meta for the particular situation. It is that common belief that light rolls previously were just like good for nothing, which is just not true. Even in PvP, I have been testing previous light rolls against the great spears. Especially the wave dash L1 aggression, which normally, well, if someone is wave dashing on you when you are mid rolling, then you are basically fucked because of the startup of the crouch L1 and so on. In case of the previous light rolls, you had so much easier time to get out of the distance of the wave dashing crouch L1 from the G spears. It was just so much easier. So yeah, even like that 8%, if you only wouldn't be so incredibly restricted with the percentage that was required, because it is like it was 30% for like a 8% of the further distance. Well, it wasn't really like considered worth it, and it just simply wasn't worth it. But it's still like in the perfect testing environment, you could see that okay, it was just working fine against particular like set of weapons. So yeah, it's just like that 8% still would be beneficial if only the equip load percentage would be higher, if only if that wouldn't be so restrictive. Ultimately, there are like circumstances under which the light rolls are not as oppressive, but there is way more circumstances when the light rolls are oppressive and just straight up unhealthy for the game. They are not good for the game, and it really would be like better if they would receive any sort of the rework. It's just like at the given moment, it's straight up like all the non-meta options that you have in this game, which is most of the weapons in this game is just basically not meta, and you have like very little amount of the classes or particular weapons that actually legitimately are considered good. So these weapons that are considered good, they can under particular circumstances deal with the light rolls. That is correct. But it's only under particular circumstances, which is not high enough latency. That's overall the main point, which is essentially light rolls plus the high latency equals absolutely non-interactable gameplay that cannot be countered by status effects, that cannot be countered by any type of the weapons. You ending up in the situation that you are basically getting memed on without any sort of the response besides just leaving the game. Which is, it's just not fine. The idea of increasing the range of the rolls is just not a good idea. You are ultimately making the game really like not fun for everyone, no matter if you are playing meta, if you are playing non-meta, if you are playing on 100 poise or if you are playing on 0 poise. Yet again, light rolls just basically not healthy for the game. This is our stance. This is my stance, at least. It's just something that's supposed to be made different. The current approach of like very, very, very long range of the light roll just memes on the game mechanics. It is just a meme on the game mechanics, and it trivializes the gameplay. It trivializes skillful aspects of the games, like for example roll catching. Literally supports brain-dead gameplay. It supports the gameplay that is not interesting from the watcher's perspective, not interesting from the player's perspective, and overall is going to lead to less interesting gameplay.
Like, and again, like this is something we already went over. Like, you know, they're not going to change the netcode overnight or in this game probably ever. Like, they're not going to do the changes that are necessary to make, let's say, the roll iframe effect go away without, you know, like you can't just sort of remove that. It's not like it's a sort of glitch. It's not intended to work exactly like that, but that's sort of what the consequences is, and the alternatives have other issues too. If you were just going to like switch how the iframes work, right? You would have to do a whole overhaul of like how the netcode works, you know, do rollback or something like that. And we don't know how that would turn out. You know, we don't know how FromSoft, if they would be able to do that, and you know, if they would be able to do this game. Probably not. Would probably be next game at best, which is still very unlikely.
What you are
so in our reality, like I don't think there's any way to sort of make light roll, you know, sort of work with how the netcode works.
Yeah, so essentially, basically the change has to be applied to the light rolls as they are currently, and not to the outer stuff, like for example interaction of the light roll with the poise, or like straight up netcode changes and so on. So ultimately, yeah, we are restricted most likely only to the potential light roll changes for the sake to fix the current problem of just trivialized gameplay by having the light rolls. And yet again, like it's you know, like a lot of people have their like perfect idea of like, for example, which level the game's supposed to be balanced on. In reality, the gameplay, like the game is just played on many different levels. Like, you know, you cannot like just take, for example, level 100, 125, 150, 200 as the limit and be like, well, in this particular case, like, oh, like I am invading on level 30 and then light rolls are fine because they are impossible to achieve, or you have to be completely naked or something like that. Like, you kind of have to look at the topic from the
bigger picture.
Wider perspective, bigger picture. But like ever since the release of the patch, all the experience that I have suggests that people gonna be adapting more into light rolls more and more and more and more. And I already can see that bonfire duelists slowly starting running the light roll builds and so on. And,
yeah, I've already encountered some.
And it's basically gonna be only worse over time. It is gonna be really not a pleasant thing to play the game, especially against very high latency gamers.
Hey, Vagabond.
That are going to spam light rolls. Because like any effort of yours is going to be trivialized, no matter if you're running status effects, if not. It's just you're gonna just be memed on by a guy that's gonna be doing this. Like, this is not something that you want. Like, it is really not something that you want. And like, what is also important is remember, like, dear viewer, if you are playing full fashion, you are playing like 10 absorption, 0 poise, it's not really valid argument that, you know, or in your case it is fine. Even on 0 poise, on the high latency, if you are gonna be spamming the roll, you're gonna be untouchable. Just that, like, the latency has to be high enough. It is just working that way. It's like, no matter what, like, the anecdotal evidence of you, for example, dying to someone on the light rolls doesn't mean that light rolls are like overtuned or unhealthy or healthy for the game. A lot of the testing is required, a lot of the experience is required, a lot of the understanding of, like, you know, how this game works more or less is required, even from like just a practical perspective. And yeah, it's just so far a lot of people that have practical knowledge about the game basically agree that there is something really wrong about light rolls. And even like, can you do that Storm Stomp real quick? I am currently on the no, I am on the medium roll. So this is the phantom hit. I need to have like a good trigger control for the sake of, you know, to actually avoid it. If I'm going to, for example, roll out like this, I'm gonna get caught, yeah? If I am going to lose my expo... Oh, I did a phantom hit again. If I'm like, I'm going to like mess up my timing, I'm just gonna get caught. Now on the light rolls, let's see. Like the... Oh, sorry, I did the phantom hit again. Like, normally here I would get caught. Like, it just like yeets me out of the distance to the point that I just meme on the Storm Stomp user. And I know that a lot of people hate Storm Stomp, think it is overpowered and so on. And like, I can somewhat agree with that.
Here's another example. Could you just, like, the moment you see the animation come out, can you just directly roll back?
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Do it with this.
Okay.
Is that on light roll?
No, this is medium.
Okay, go on medium roll. Light roll.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Yep. Nope. It doesn't work. Like you can just, you know, literally just, and that's assuming we're point blank too.
Yeah.
Like there's just no way I'm ever catching you with this if you're on light roll.
It's
But if
basically
you're on
a
medium
lot
roll,
of
it's
the
realistic.
moves, a lot of the moves being absolutely trivialized, and the actual, yet again, like I know like a lot of things like being hated on, and people genuinely have the hate boner, but in the long range, in the long distance, in the like the bigger picture, you're gonna like really realize that the light roll just going to bring more troubles than it actually helps you, even if you are playing like a non-meta setups. It's like really, it's gonna only make meta more apparent. It is like essentially like what's going to happen ultimately, because you're not really working against the meta tools. What you are actually doing here is you are working against anything. So essentially the tools that were like worse than the meta tools before are going to be even worse now. It is basically how it works. Like it's like we need like for example, the different approach is needed. Like the light rolls are not like a straight up counter to the crouch poke or like a dual spears or something like that. No, it is like misconception. It's just like they are basically making little bit less oppressive the tools like crouch poke, but they are also making like basically the non-meta tools absolutely useless. So yeah, they are just straight up not good for the game. Then this is like
Yeah.
my final word on it. And
I agree. One thing you've been mostly doing in these videos, like invasions with the light roll, right?
not only I have been doing tournaments, I have been doing duels.
How about hosting, like against invaders? Have you showed how that goes, like in a 1v1 scenario?
I guess I'm gonna do it.
It is hell. I'm it's already probably a thing in this game, but in DS3, and it is probably going to be more so in this game, where light rolling hosts that just don't want to die and are just not going to aggress you until they have all the advantages. Like let's say extra blues in, they're just going to be untouchable. That's how it is.
Yeah.